Hey, it's Ariana here from Scale and Simplify, and in this video, I'm going to walk you through how to set up an email sequence inside of Kartra. Now, before I jump in, I just want to distinguish between when you should use sequences and when you should be using broadcasts. So broadcasts are essentially one-time emails. So this is great for something like your newsletter or one-off promotional emails that you are sending to your entire list. Whereas sequences are series of emails that you want to send somebody after they have done something to trigger that series. So for example, if you have a freebie, you want to have a welcome series of emails that anytime somebody opts into that freebie, they will get that sequence. Or if you are launching and you have a series of sales emails that you want everybody who gets pulled into that particular sequence to get in a specific order or at specific dates, and then you would do that in there. Basically, repeatable emails that you're going to be using in that order in which you're creating them time and time again. And so really the purpose of a sequence is to allow you to automate that instead of then having to create separate broadcasts each time. And you're also kind of keeping things just clean and organized in a sequence because they're contained within that one sort of bundle of emails. Something that I get asked sometimes and I see people struggling with is when they are launching a program for the first time and maybe they are doing the emails as they go along. In a case where you're doing something live and maybe for the first time and it's not all, basically any time that all of your emails are not done up front, you want to use broadcasts. And so that allows you to kind of have more flexibility and control and make sure that the right people get the right email at the right time. And then what you can do is convert those emails into a sequence to make them into more of an evergreen, ongoing series of emails that you can use in the future. All right, so I'm going to jump in now into creating a sample sequence and walk you through all of the steps. So if we go to my communications and then under communications, we see here I am under sequences. We're going to click the green button, give it a name. Now where it says public description, I just put my awesome sequence. But just keep in mind that that is something that's public facing. And so for example, if you are doing a launch, it's going to show them the lists and the sequences that they are subscribed to and allow them to unsubscribe from things individually or from everything that you send to them. So just make sure that whatever wording you are using is public friendly. Okay, so here we are in the sequence builder. First, I'm just going to explain a couple of things at the top here. This little button here that says arrange items, I'll use that later to show you. Basically, it just, as you drag out different things into the sequence, things can get messy, and this button just kind of lines everything up for you visually. There's no actual like functionality difference or change that happens. And then here you can just select how you want it to look as far as how it's laid out. So do you want the sequence to go from left to right horizontally, or do you want it to go from top down vertically? So I'm just going to select vertically, and then you can zoom out and zoom in. Zooming out is really helpful when you get a whole bunch of things in there and you want to kind of see what it looks like in its entirety. Okay, and then on the right hand side here, we can see instructions for just how to navigate and use this. So if you left click and drag, you can kind of select different things, multiple boxes or sections in here, and you can right click and drag to move the canvas. I think it's just not working for me now because I don't have anything in there yet. Okay. So I'm going to explain the things along the left-hand side here. We've got, you can send an email, send an SMS. You need integrations to be able to do this, but it is an option in there. You can add, remove tags, unsubscribe or subscribe somebody to a list or a sequence. You can add it in automation. You can create a split, a go to, a wait period, or completing the sequence. So I will use some of these to demonstrate them, but what you would do first is select your trigger or starting rule, as they call it here. So this is whatever is going to pull people in. So it's kind of like an if-then situation. So if somebody does something, you want them to come into this sequence. So oftentimes this is going to be an opt-in form. So let's just say that I am creating a welcome sequence for somebody after they download a freebie. I would select that. You can select multiple starting rules. So it could be that people in different forms or different actions and tags get pulled into the same sequence. So you can select a tag to be a trigger, somebody being added to a list. When somebody orders something, you can select the product and then it'll automatically pull them into the sequence. When they visit a page, and that gets flagged. Or if they are tied to another sequence. So when they subscribe to a second sequence that you have, if you want them to also come into this particular one, or you can do it through an automation, and there's different options here. So if they complete a form, visit a page, a lot of the similar things to the other ones we just saw, but the one thing here is the one thing that's different and that could be handy for you if you have an online course is if a lead is granted access to a membership or revoked access. So, an example of how you could use this is if you have a membership of some sort, like a subscription month-to-month membership, and they lose access to it because they have now opted out and unsubscribed from your membership, you can have the revoking of access of that membership be the trigger for a sequence where you connect with them, maybe 1 month, 2 months, 3 months down the road, and remind them what it is that is of value to them in the membership and invite them to come back, maybe offer them some sort of a special offer or something like that. So that is just one idea of how you could use something like that. The possibilities are endless. Okay, so we have some starting rules here, and now we want to send them an email. I'm going to drag that out. And as soon as I do that, this automatically comes up, and it is the sequence of, or the series of settings that we need to go through step by step and select. So the first thing is the delay. Do we want it to happen right away? Do we want the email to go out right away? Do we want to wait a certain number of days or hours? Or do we want it to happen on a specific date? So this is, we're going to assume this is a confirmation email and we want it to go out right away. So I'm going to click next. Here is where you can select what times and days of the week that you want to maybe skip or just leave them all in. Normally I leave this all in, especially if it's a delivery email. You don't want to delay something like that. You would use this in some cases where maybe you want to avoid sending particular emails on the weekends or something like that. So I'm going to leave that and click next. Name of the broadcast. This is just like an internal thing. You're just going to give it a name for yourself. Here's where you're going to select your email gateway. Make sure that the email that you want is listed in there. And then here is where you would select recipients. Now, the easiest one to do is click select, anyone reaching this step. And so this means that like anybody at any time who, satisfies one of the triggers that you selected at the top of the sequence will receive this email. If you want to filter out certain people, so if, for example, you want somebody who has previously opted in to that particular freebie to not get this particular email, you want them to skip it and maybe get a different email, you would then put that condition in here. So you would say send if does not have tag, and then select that tag, that other tag. So the simplest way and what most often you're going to use is anyone reaching this step. I'm going to add that in and next. Okay, and you can do split testing in Kartra that allows you to have different versions of the email, and some people get, version A, some people get version B. We're just going to keep it simple and do a single email. And then we reach the content of the email. And I'm not going to put anything here. Now this works just like the email editor anywhere else inside of Kartra, so I'm just going to move on. And then you can also incorporate an automation within, like attached specifically to that email. So for example, you can, if somebody clicks on a specific link in that email, maybe you want to tag them with something. And there's other things that you can do here as well. Or if they open the email, maybe you want to give them points to sort of gauge their engagement. So I'm just going to skip that piece and then click create. Okay, so now we see the email and it says inactive and it's kind of like a white grayed out thing. What we need to do then is once it's ready, this is like draft mode. Once it's ready, you're gonna hover over the three dots and click activate. This is also where you can edit, clone it, or delete it. I'm gonna activate it and now it's like published. And then we need to connect it. So to connect the different elements within a sequence, we are just connecting and linking these little gray node things here. So when you hover over it, a little plus comes up, so you can just drag it down. And then once it connects, it turns yellow. And so here at a glance, we can see that this is sent immediately after. In this gray bar, it's always going to show you the time delay. And then it's going to show you what the action is, send email, and it's going to show you the name that you gave that step. You can preview some of the settings here by clicking on the eyeball. Okay, and then if you wanted to edit or view the email, you would click on the link here. So I'm just going to close that though. All right, so let's say that also as soon as we send them an email, we also want them to get a specific tag attached to them. And we can do this also right after the next step, anytime, and we're going to add a tag. Okay, so once again, we're going to activate that step. We're going to connect them, and there we have it. Now, one thing that I want to mention is these numbers here, the 1, 2, and it's going to go on. Oftentimes, people think that it means it's not linked to the functionality of the sequence. So if, for example, I start creating things and I have like 5 emails in the sequence, and before I've published it and made it live and all of that, I want to switch around the emails. And now suddenly the one that was labeled as 6 is email number 2 as far as the positioning of it. Like you want number 6 to be sent as the second email. The 6 that's attached to that step will never change. So as you rearrange things, it doesn't change. The number is just based on the order in which you created these steps. So just know that it doesn't mean that it will be sent as the 6th thing. It is still based on how you actually arrange them, and you can pretty much ignore that number. Okay, so I'm just going to line these up a little bit so that they're straight. And we're going to move on to some of these other things. Now, there are a lot, and it would be way too much in one video to go through in detail of each and every one of these. There's so many different things that you can do. I'm going to show you just the key things that I think you would need for something like launching a course, as part of a freebie funnel or anything like that. So another thing that you might want to use is the split feature. So let's say that you have like a regular and VIP version of your course. Or like I was mentioning before, you want to send people who have previously already subscribed to one of your freebies down a different path than the people who are brand new to you. You can use the split to sort of manage that. So I'm just going to, let's say we can do this after 1 day, leave that. And then this is where you set those conditions for that split. So there are like lots of different options for how you can do this. I'm gonna go with the example of having a VIP and a regular version of the course. And so I'm gonna say if they have the tag, and then this is where you would just select whatever tag is associated with that product, the VIP product. I'm just gonna select a random tag in my test system here. And then you can also select multiple things for the condition, and that works on an and or basis. So maybe you want to say they have this tag and they do not have another tag, or they are part or not part of a given membership, whatever it might be. So for now, I'm just going to leave it with this. Click create. All right, and now we see this little section here where there's true and a false. So we have to remember what the condition was that we set. So the condition is if they have the VIP tag. So if that is true, now the true section or the true pathway is your VIP people, and the false is anybody who is in this sequence who does not have that condition or that VIP tag. So I'm going to connect these. And then here what you would do is you would then move on to creating an email, for example. I'm just going to quickly clone this one just for simplicity. I'm going to put it down here. And so you're gonna have an email here for these people. You're gonna have a different email. Okay, and so on and so forth. If you wanted, for example, to set it up so that it's only one email that is set different for somebody with particular conditions, and then you want them to like come back together for the rest of the sequence, the way that you would do that, let me just zoom out here. Okay, so I'm going to create that additional email, just clone this. Okay, and so you can still funnel them directly into that email by connecting it this way. Okay, and I mean, like I said, there are so many more things that you can do in here. I'm going to cover the basics in this tutorial. At the very end, you have a couple of options. You can drag out the complete step. Basically, what this does is it just marks them as having completed the sequence. And this is something that you can then use in the system in automations elsewhere. So, somewhere else in an email, a broadcast, or whatever it might be, you can then select like if this person has completed this particular sequence, then do whatever. The other thing you can do is unsubscribe them from that sequence at the end. So the difference between these two is that if you put the complete at the very end here, it's going to mark them as completed in the sequence, but when you look at the sequence in the list, which I'll show you when we hop out of it, they're still going to show up as being in there. So they're kind of like sitting inside of the sequence, but nothing is happening, and they have been marked as completing it. Whereas if you want to only have people in there who are actively within the sequence, so like they're still, progressing through it, and you want to know that when they have stopped progressing through it, they have been removed from it completely, then you would use the unsubscribe sequence down here. And you can choose to do it right away or maybe the next day. And then unsubscribe sequence, and you're going to select that one, the one that you are working on. Okay, so I'm going to activate that one. Okay, so what will happen now is once they reach the bottom here, they will just be pulled out of the sequence and you're not going to see them as having, as being inside of it at the time. Okay, so I'm going to click done and exit. And out here in the list of sequences, it's showing it for me right now. Note that automatically when you click done and exit, it publishes this. And so if you are not done with it, make sure that as soon as you come out of it, as soon as you've saved it, you click pause. So that means that this one is now paused, and when you hover over it, your option is to resume it or play. And then once you are ready for it to actually be live, that's when you can click on this, and then anytime that condition is satisfied, they will get pulled into that sequence. So that is it for this tutorial. I hope that was helpful for you. And if you are about to launch, or if you're setting up any sort of funnel, be sure to check out the links below. I have some freebies that will help you save hours and hours of time. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this tutorial, click like below and subscribe to our channel for more tips on scaling and simplifying your online business. If you know someone else who would benefit from this video or similar ones, share it with them as well. Thanks for watching!